From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I'm Saini Gray. The Peruvian opposition leader Keiko Fujimori will remain in custody while being tried for money laundering. A court rejected an appeal she filed at the end of last year for the second time. Fujimori will remain in custody for 36 months while being investigated. She was originally detained in October. And people across Peru are demanding that the Attorney General, Pedro Chavarri, resign. They say he is delaying the corruption investigation targeting different public officials and former presidents.
Peruvians have protested once again in Lima and other provinces across the country under the slogan "Chavarri out." They are opposed that the public ministry be headed by a prosecutor that is being investigated for corruption, accused of boycotting investigations into other politicians.
He has to quit. He can't serve justice when he's also a corrupt official. Chavarri has to leave.
The Attorney General has proved that he's linked to Peruvian mafias.
Demonstrators say the latest decision taken by the Attorney General Pedro Chavarri have delayed investigations against several public officials involved in the Odebrecht corruption case. They are demanding the government declares an emergency in the public ministry.
We need a deep reform of the justice system, the public ministry, the judicial power. We need a new way for justice to be served.
Chavarri is not the only problem. The real problem is the impunity pact signed between those involved in corruption cases and the officials in the public ministry.
Student and union movements joined the demonstration. They think the fight against corruption must begin by changing the structure of the entities in charge of the judiciary.
All the government and non-government bodies are rotted. People in further regions are facing serious working conditions, and all because of corruption in our politicians.
People outside the capital, Lima, also protested. Demonstrators say they will take to the streets again until Congress approves declaring the public ministry in emergency.
Members of the Mapuche community in Chile are on high alert after the government threatened to apply the anti-terrorism law. The community is condemning the use of this law to criminalize their protests. They now fear evictions and the use of warrants to search their homes could happen. And they're also condemning the murders of their members at the hands of the police. Chilean port workers have resumed protest action after the company Ultraport decided not to reinstate 22 employees. The workers rallied in front of the Dockers Union headquarters in the city of Valparaiso. They are accusing the company of unfairly punishing employees who went on strike. And they also say an agreement which guaranteed bonuses and other perks isn't being honored. And in Mexico, another leader from the Morena party has been murdered. Professor Cadberto Porcayo, a party member from San Jose del Progreso, was shot dead on Wednesday as he traveled in a car. This is a second murder of a member of the Morena party within the last 48 hours in Oaxaca. On January 1st, Alejandro Aparicio, mayor of Tlaxiaco, was shot dead mere minutes after taking office. Meanwhile, the Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has said that all public officials must be transparent about their assets. The president also said that officials who do not comply with this decision will not be part of his administration. He said that there is a moral obligation to comply with the demand, but it is not a legal requirement. The former Ecuadorian president, Rafael Correa, has been called on to testify in a case involving the murder of a journalist. The public prosecutor says Correa's former ministers of Interior and Justice will also be called to the stand. Now, back in 2013, the journalist Fausto Valdivieso was fatally shot in his car. Correa has already been ordered to stand trial in a separate case where he was accused of orchestrating the failed kidnapping of an opposition lawmaker in 2012. And a citizens' assembly in Ecuador made up of workers from various sectors is rejecting what it calls the neoliberal policies of the government. The measures form part of an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Workers fear that some of these policies will result in sharp cuts to the education and health budgets. The Citizens' Assembly is promising to continue protesting over the government's proposals.
We know that this is a package of very neoliberal policies which the government signed on to with the International Monetary Fund. It's obvious that social organizations and people on the streets will say a resounding no to these policies. We do not want such an agreement with the IMF because in the past, its policies did not benefit the people of Ecuador in any way at all. In fact, what it actually did was create a severe economic crisis. Some may have conveniently forgotten these harsh realities, but remember how almost 3 million Ecuadorians fled their homeland because of these kinds of measures. 375 million was slashed from health, and education funding was cut by 194 million. Who do you think feels the direct impact of these measures? That there will be no money to purchase medicine.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has confirmed he will move his country's embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Now, Bolsonaro said that he intended to follow the United States and move Brazil's embassy to Jerusalem, but until now he was indecisive, fearing economic retributions from Arab countries. We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a few. Welcome back. The Lima Group has met ahead of the second-term inauguration of the Venezuelan President, Nicolas Maduro. The Venezuelan Foreign Minister, Jorge Arias, condemned the meeting and the participation of the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Arias pointed out that the Trump administration is not a member of the group, and he described the meeting as a display of humiliating subordination. Despite U.S. migrants are confident of gaining entry into the United States. One of them, Rosa Castillo, had to leave Honduras after her house was burned down by members of a gang. She said that for her and other migrants, they are left without other options.
For me, Trump can close whatever he wants because it won't do anything. It's the same for any migrant. There is nothing that can stop us. If he closes it, then we will look for other options to enter the U.S. That's what it is. For us, nothing is impossible. Not for God, because we have a lot of faith. We can put up a wall and whatever he wants, but there is nothing impossible for us. I know that we're going to enter just because I know we're going to enter. He can put up all the walls he wants, as high as he wants them. We're going to enter, even if we have to dig under them.
And a single mother of 3 children who was about to be deported has found shelter in a church in the state of Virginia. The U.S. government tried to send Rosa Gutierrez Lopez back to El Salvador, but she sought refuge at the place of worship. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement has a no arresting policy at sensitive locations, which includes churches, schools, and hospitals.
I was sitting on the couch with them, and I told them I had to go. They were making me go back to my country. And she told me, I want to go with you. I said, no, because the situation in my country is very delicate. There is a lot of violence, and if I take my daughter there, her life could be at risk, just like mine. She started crying because she understands more than the other children. But she became very sad, very sad. And she told me the first day I came to church, she told me, I miss you very much, come, I can't go over there, but you can come every weekend, I told them, and she said, okay.
The National Assembly of Ecuador has begun to debate a reform to the country's criminal codes. Among them, the decriminalization of abortion in the cases of rape. Denise Herrera has more from Quito.
The decriminalization of abortion in cases of rape and conception without consent are one of the main issues currently under debate at the National Assembly. In light of this, several women's rights organizations have gathered outside the Assembly to show their support for safe and legal abortion in Ecuador.
We think this is an urgent reform. We defend the decriminalization of abortion since we believe that it is fundamental to guarantee women's rights. We believe that this is a first step towards the legalization of abortion in any case. This debate will hopefully protect women who have been victims of rape by giving them the choice of terminating their pregnancy.
We need that the National Assembly understands the responsibility they have in their hands. Right now, the law forces girls to have the babies of their rapists. A comprehensive law would not force them to have an abortion, but to have the right to choose.
The president of the Justice Commission and lawmaker from the Citizen Revolution movement, Marcela Aguiñaga, opened the debate.
As president of the Justice Commission here in the National Assembly, I can't have my religious beliefs influencing the reforms we are debating. As president of this commission, I am fostering an open, diverse, and transparent debate.
Several feminist organizations and persons for and against the legalization of abortion appeared before the Assembly.
I proposed to the Justice Commission to create a family ministry so that they can create plans of actions to foster a better environment at home. This can only be achieved through family counseling and specialized centers. We need to teach our sons to respect women and so that women don't wear those ridiculous green scarves.
This is not a controversial reality. It is a painful one that is lived by thousands of girls and women in Ecuador and around the world. We deserve the protection of the state. We live in a society that has normalized gender violence, including sexual violence. Just in these last 3 years, more than 14,000 rapes have been reported. And in the last decade, more than 20,000 girls under the age of 14 have given birth.
And outside the Assembly, persons for and against abortion have voiced to their opinions.
I'm French. For me, abortion is a right. This is no longer a debate in Europe. It has become a fundamental right for women. They can choose above their body and decide their future.
We are against abortion because the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill," especially not an innocent person.
The fight against corruption, policies to safeguard the sexual integrity of children, and the use of cannabis for medical use are some of the proposed reforms of Ecuador's criminal law.
A 12-year-old girl has been killed in the department of Mata in Colombia. During New Year celebrations, the girl's family noticed that she was missing. They immediately informed the authorities, but her body was found later in a rural area. A man has been arrested in connection with her death. According to official statistics, every 2 days a woman dies because of gender-based violence in Colombia. And in too many of those cases, the authorities continue to blame the women actually for their assault.
Femicide is the intentional killing of women and girls based on their gender. And now, the Quinta de Bolivar Museum in Bogotá is hosting a special exhibition titled Femicide, Not One More Woman.
When we were organizing this exhibition of femicide, we thought it has a lot to do with what we do day to day here, making visitors reflect about a subject that at times we don't give the importance it deserves.
Over the last 5 years, about 6,000 women were murdered in Colombia. There's a new femicide case registered every 2 days.
Colombia has seen a surge in gender-based violence. Figures show that in 2017 and 2018, more than 2,000 cases were registered. Although many things have improved in the country, gender-based violence, especially within the family, remains a critical issue.
In terms of legislation, Colombia has made significant progress in strengthening the protection of women and punishing gender-based crimes. But the system still has a lot of flaws.
Police officers and civil servants continue to blame women for being sexually assaulted. Women's complaints are not handled appropriately or given the priority they need. This is an obstacle preventing women from coming forward about their experiences with sexual harassment or assault, and it makes it harder to prevent femicides.
Violence against women is an exercise of power which becomes justified and quickly normalized. Therefore, it is important to educate children about it from an early age.
Law 1257 includes a whole education program on sexual and gender-based violence, and there are decrees to ensure this is incorporated in the school curriculum. But unfortunately, schools no longer fulfill this requirement. There should be a whole curriculum in those topics stretching from primary school to university.
In most cases, violence against women comes from their current or former intimate partners, and even from within their own families.
And less than a week into the new year, at least 2 women have lost their lives in Bolivia. The country has one of the highest femicide rates in South America. Our correspondent Freddie Morales has the details.
While the murders of 2 women are still being investigated, law enforcement has already received reports of a third gender-based killing, which is said to have happened over the first couple days of the new year. These recent incidents have resurrected concern about untamed, widespread acts of violence perpetrated against women in Bolivia. In 2018, there were at least 100 recorded cases of gender-based violence. Many more also go unreported. Last November, a special multi-ministry commission headed by President Evo Morales was set up to tackle the growing femicide rate. The commission is tasked with developing a package of new legislation to strengthen the protection of women and children. President Morales has said that these laws need to be urgently enacted. Bolivia's rising femicide rate is mostly attributed to the very patriarchal social system that exists. Perpetrators face up to 30 years in prison for the murder of women.
We thank Freddie Morales for that report. The Bolivian Health Minister, Rodolfo Recabado, will hold talks with public sector doctors about the government's plans to make healthcare free for all. The medical professionals began a 48-hour strike on Thursday against the move towards universal healthcare. The Health Ministry has said the program will have a budget of around $230 million, but the doctors say that won't be enough. Under the program, close to 6 million Bolivians who do not have health insurance will be given access to free medical care. That is, once the registration period is completed within the next 3 months. Ghana's House Speaker has declined to rule on whether the no-confidence motion was illegal. He has instead referred the matter to the courts. 2 weeks ago, the passing of the motion toppled the government. The legality of that vote and the conduct of the government MP who joined with the opposition have come into question. And while addressing empty opposition benches, the Speaker informed that the matter is now out of his hands.
In the second instance, full, final and complete settlement of these issues by a court of competent jurisdiction will place beyond doubt any question which may exist and serve to give guidance to the Speaker and to the National Assembly for the future.
The Jamaican Ministry of Health has announced an outbreak of dengue fever in the country. The ministry has allocated close to $2 million to combat the epidemic. Dengue fever is a mosquito-borne disease and can have deadly consequences. More news in a minute. Please stay with us. Welcome back. At least 20 Palestinians have been injured by Israeli security forces near the Gaza border during the Great March of Return protests. Palestinians had gathered near the border to take part in protests against Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestine. Since the beginning of the protests, more than 250 Palestinians have been killed and thousands more injured by Israeli troops stationed at the border. At least 11 civilians have died in Syria after an international coalition strike led by the European Union. The attack took place in the northeast of the country, which is controlled by the Islamic State group. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the number of victims could rise because there are many people in critical condition. The NGO said that more than 12,000 citizens have fled from these territories since last December. Over 600 people have been affected by an Ebola outbreak in the DRC since August, according to the Ministry of Health. The ministry also said that 350 Ebola patients have died since the latest outbreak began. The current outbreak is the second deadliest and the second largest in history, after the one in West Africa in 2014 that killed more than 11,000 people. An NGO ship operated by the German charity Sea-Watch has called for help after being stranded in the Mediterranean Sea for 2 weeks with 32 migrants on board. The organization said the ship is running out of supplies and the mental health of migrants on board, especially children, was deteriorating. The ship rescued the migrants from a rubber boat off the coast of Libya. One person has died after tropical storm Pabuk landed in Thailand. We have more on this and many other stories from around the world.
One person has died and another is missing after tropical storm Pabuk landed in the east coast of Thailand. This is expected to be the worst storm to hit the region in 3 decades. Airports and ferries were forced to close and thousands of people have evacuated from different provinces.
Early morning, it was dark and it was raining. Around 4 a.m., there was a lot of wind and rain. The storm wrecked homes and trees fell down.
The new House of Representatives with Democratic majority has approved 2 measures that would end the government shutdown. But an impasse remains as the bills provide no money for President Donald Trump's border wall. Trump has threatened a veto of legislation that would fund Homeland Security operations until February 8 and several other agencies through September. It was a winter wonderland in Greece as a heavy cold front sweeping through Eastern Europe has blanketed many parts of the country in thick layers of snow. As much as 1 meter of snowfall fell in northern and central Greece, closing many roads and disrupting traffic. The forests of Mount Parnitha near Athens were a sea of endless white.
6 people have been killed after a building collapse in India's capital. An explosion inside a fan production factory caused its ceiling to collapse. Several people were also injured. A 3rd woman has entered a temple in the Indian state of Kerala following 2 days of clashes between conservative groups and the police. The Sabrimala temple has been at the center of tension since the Supreme Court overturned a ban on women between the ages of 10 to 50 years old from entering the temple. On Wednesday, 2 women escorted by the police became the first to enter a shrine, a move that angered conservative groups. The 2 women remain under police protection and close to 1,400 people have been arrested in relation to these protests. And the Yatu 2 moon rover has taken its first steps in the far side, on the far side of the moon. The rover is part of a successful Chinese mission known as Chang'e 4, which landed on Thursday to explore this previously unknown part of the Earth's satellite. The object is able to endure extreme temperatures and radiation. It also includes devices to obtain images of the moon and study its composition. And we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesiaenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At Telesia English, I'm Suni Gray. Thank you for watching.